Today, I'm going to introduce you to a really young guy, Jonathan Tonks, who is already on the path to be financially freedom. So anybody out there talking about their age, young or old, whatever, he might be a great sample. But I'm not going to give his too much of history. Jonathan, kind of give you our history to where you were to where you are now, and
Yeah.
what do you do?
Thank you, Raju. It's great to be here with you. And I love sharing my story just from the standpoint of it wasn't the traditional route from what I had expected or looked forward to. So I'm really excited to be here and to share with people, try to add value as best we can. But what I like to tell people is I started out with the mindset of I was going to work in corporate America. I was going to work up the corporate ladder. That was what I was raised in. Both my parents are electrical engineers, and I just wanted to follow those footsteps. So I did early on. I studied mechanical engineering in school. I was on the path working at an automotive supplier and just working up the ladder, learning as much as I could from that industry. But always had, maybe always is the wrong word, but I was introduced into business in my early 20s. Actually, even 18, I started investing in the stock market, just small index trading, and just that curiosity started to grow and expand a little bit. Early 20s, started to learn more about business. How can I apply? It was micro businesses at the time, like selling Cutco knives or doing like lawn services, like little things like that. Nothing really stuck. I just had that curiosity. So a couple years had passed. I graduated from college, and I had the opportunity to move to where I currently live. It's Holland, Michigan. It's on the west side of the state. And I had the chance to buy my first duplex. So it was my first real estate purchase. And on top of this, really my first investment property. I'm living in one unit, renting out the other. And that's when it all started to make sense. That's where reading the business books, talking to people about business and real estate, reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, that's when it started to make sense. And from there, it just became a pure pursuit of how do we scale this? How do we grow? As I mentioned, with the engineering mind, the house, the duplex I bought was completely renovated, but I spent with my dad another 6 months fixing it up. People like there's a sliding barn door behind me. It's just things that didn't need to be done, but we just like to do. So I knew that I wasn't going to be a flipper. I wasn't going to buy and sell single family homes. Wasn't fast at it. Wasn't really in that wheelhouse, but I just started reaching out to mentorship groups, to coaching programs, masterminds, just trying to network with people like yourself or anyone who has more, which at the time everyone had more experience than I did in commercial. So just trying to learn from them. Quickly met a few partners that I teamed up with, raised some capital for a couple syndications early on, and then just start to grow and scale it from there. So now, by the end of the month, I think we'll have a little over 600 units. About 109 million AUM, and just trying to look where we can add value to teams and scale at more of an impactful value. So that's kind of the high level, quick story of where we started and where we're at today.
Awesome, Jonathan. That's one of the critical things you said is I was just watching Robert Kiyosaki's episode, he was talking about how economy and income economy sales is important, and one of the things is learning to sell. And you mentioned that in your one of intro Cutco, because my daughter did that. My daughter also did Cutco, and she learned some skills. So anyway, that's a tip there for people. If you haven't learned, learn from one of those organizations how to sell if you want to get into entrepreneurships. But anyway, let's get back into you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Now, with what you do or who you're looking to connect and all, who can you help and who are you looking to connect these days then?
That's a great question. And I think I ask that often because we're constantly changing. I don't think we talk about this a lot, but we talk about what's your avatar when it comes to real estate investing? Who are you trying to help? Let's narrow it down so that we're not all things to all people. Let's get very specific. And I struggle with that a little bit because I think it changes. I connect with a lot of people. Thankfully, I think that's just my personality. I have the core components like engineers for my background. I connect with a lot of those. I got my pilot's license a couple years ago, so I connect with some pilots. But it's hard for me to say, like, let's just limit it to this demographic. But really, I like to open it up because of that. I think regardless of people's occupation, what their background is, like everyone needs a little bit of connection with each other. We can all help each other in different ways. And I don't want to advertise that I am all things to all people, but I think everyone likes more income. And I don't think occupations change that. So I'd like to say that I can be open and honest and transparent with people that the opportunities that we provide is applicable to anybody. And it's something that I like to promote a lot of just these syndication models, investing in multifamily apartments in really specific locations, none of which that I live in. My teams are boots on the ground, or my partners are boots on the ground. So very hyper specific about the markets we choose. But it's something that I don't discriminate to anyone who wants to be a part of. Now, in terms of what I'm looking for on a high level, more running the business, I'm looking for some strategic partnerships, capital investments, anyone who's looking for those types of synergies. But again, it's all about how do we create those synergies to add more value to investors and to people who want to be passive or active, and just trying to create systems that allow us to be more flexible and navigate through while giving the greatest return and the greatest value to people. It's kind of a long answer to your question, but
Got you. Well, to summarize, I mean, again, if you see Jonathan talk, he kind of mentions value a lot. So he's big on that. And my conversation, same thing, adding value and giving value, all that stuff. So yeah, that's one thing with him. The other thing is obviously, yeah, if you're in real estate, looking for options, and if you're a syndicator or you're a capital raiser, all that stuff, I think that those are the things probably Jonathan would be interested in talking to people from a synergy there. And if there are 3 different categories there, I know, but he didn't mention this, but he's also trying to create a fund. So anybody would like to be in that fund, maybe reach out to him. I will post all his info, whatever info I have of Jonathan. So reach out to him. He's a great guy to talk to. Network now for future, maybe, right? Even that case. So, all right, Jonathan. Well, let's get back into in a short while. You achieved a lot of success. So I kind of, based on my conversation, I know what inspires you to do what you do, but I guess let people know what inspires you to do what you do right now.
A lot of different things, but the biggest and the most foundational is just my faith background, but then my relationship with my family. I journal a lot. I journal every day, and so many times stories and experiences that I grew up with keep coming to mind when I'm reflecting on how do we create a specific strategy in our business, or how do I want to treat people? How do we want to stand out? What's our value proposition? I keep being reminded of stories that I grew up with my family. Just one quick one to share with you is I'd say probably the only entrepreneur in my entire family that I knew that was living when I was alive, or while I was growing up, is my grandpa, my mom's father. And he had a little tuxedo business in a small city called Flushing, Michigan, which is kind of north of Metro Detroit area, and wasn't outrageously successful by any means. I mean, it's in the 50s, and he sold that and didn't make a ton of money on it. But every summer while I was growing up, probably since the time I was maybe 7, he would make it a point to book a vacation spot or book a cabin. I have 14 cousins on my mom's side, like there's 24 people total, and we would every summer spend the entire week or weekend together. But we didn't miss a year at all. And I've shared this story before, but he passed away right at the beginning of COVID, and for different health reasons. And we've since missed those summer experiences together. And I don't want that to be a continuing pattern. So a lot of the inspiration for me is to create the kind of wealth and the kind of legacy that I grew up with, and continue that with my family, with extended family, inviting friends, and just creating this experience in life where family is a priority and we're not going to miss creating memories together. So that's a huge inspiration. I think a lot of that just comes from, thankfully, how I was raised and the types of parents I have. So all the credit to them, been standing on their shoulders and what they've built before me. So that's a huge, huge inspiration. There's other pieces, but I'd say that's the biggest one.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's what I was hoping you would mention, because we talked about it before. But yeah, that's a great story, great inspiration. That's awesome, because I've experienced the family vacations, getting together and all. So That is an awesome thing, you know, and then to miss that is, yeah, I can see where you're inspired. Awesome, Jonathan. Well, again, you know, going back to your brief history and achieving all this success, and you didn't mention, but you're soon to be financially free, or at least getting to full-time real estate, and maybe you're definitely, you probably have tips you can share that has helped you and can help others, personal, professional, whatever. One tip you can share.
Just one?
Oh. Yes, you have to share only one tip.
Or one professional, one personal.
Okay, fine. We'll do two for it.
Okay.
Normally I only say like one for, but okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the flexibility. Personal one is you must figure out who you are and not just what motivates you, but what do you stand for and who do you want to be? I think we rarely spend time, especially when we're young or whatever stage of life, we rarely spend time to actually sit in solitude and reflect on who do we actually want to be versus just churning through the day. So really spending some time to just figure that out. And then it's going to make so many of the future steps clearer. I think that's the purpose of it. Who do you want to be? And then it's easier to say no to things that don't align with that vision. So that's on the personal side. Professional side is, I think we use the terminology of you got to get outside your comfort zone, but I'll take it a step further of intentionally pushing through that uncomfortability. And what I mean by that is early on when I was going to conferences and shaking hands with people, I wasn't really good at sales. I would still be doing Cutco knives if I was good at sales, but I'm not. So it was getting through that uncomfortability of shaking hands, introducing yourself to people, asking questions, and for a lack of better terms, like being the least smart person in the room to try to gain knowledge and exposure. So pushing through that on a professional level to shake hands and get to know people and just learn from your environment. I think that's a big one professionally.
Awesome. Well, if you kind of really noticed, it's one and the, the professional, personal are kind of one and the same. What you said, really, because who you being is always going to, if who you decide to be, that will give you the results. So both are there. And I disagree, Jonathan, that you're not good at sales. Someone who's not good at sales cannot raise capital. So,
thank you.
That's based on my conversation, you're good at sales. It's not the cheesy salesperson, I guess. That's what we think about. That's not sales. That's the cheesy sales. You just figure out. Anyway, I don't want to dwell into that, but just putting it out there that don't discount yourself.
It's a good mindset shift. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
But awesome. And again, thanks for taking the time, Jonathan. Again, I will be posting Jonathan's info, whatever info I have. I'll be sharing and then reach out to him. Like, as you can see, he's talking like a 40, 50-year-old. I think he's like 22 or 23, but maybe he's a little bit older. I don't know. He looks 21, 22.
25. Thank you. 25.
Anyway, 25. Wow, that's old. Right. All right. Awesome. Thanks again, Jonathan.
Yeah. Thank you, Raju. Appreciate it.